Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. It's great to see people here. Good evening, Joni Tikala from Finland. I love it. Gavin Kerr, half naked in the background. Love it. You ruined what I was going to do. I have your name. I have your Facebook profile. I have everything ready to be pasted in here and have every one of our followers go wish you a good morning. I woke you up, didn't I, big guy?
No, my alarm did.
Oh, I was hoping I got to wake you up. Good morning, Joni Tikala. It's so good to see you. Gavin Kerr, you are one of my favorite people alive, and that's just not a lie anymore. You have such a good energy. I was reading a book last night about mindfulness, and literally words you and I have talked about on things were coming out in this book. And I just want you guys to know I'm very honored as a 8-year-old man. And it's still 2 weeks away. I get 2 weeks to be 37. But you're 21 and you are one of the most humble, mindful people I've met. And I just want you to know it's very honored to do a show with you, buddy. I pick on you because you're such a good guy, but to start the day with you every day is just, it's truly a blessing. So thank you, Gavin Kerr.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate this. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the people supporting me and the people who are here right now anyway. Like if you weren't here doing the show with me this morning, I wouldn't be doing it. So
I love it. I love it. I have done something for us. I just shared it, and I'm trying to get it to copy for me, but it doesn't seem to want to. I did a book. We're reading a book as a group, and when I say reading, Gavin and I are listening. But it's Brene Brown, and it's Daring Greatly. And we have Miss Christina as our book coordinator. And we did chapter 1 this last week. And I have to be honest, it has absolutely been 100% just fun. It's been great to see what she's doing. She's got this way of being able to make a book, Brene Brown, make a book sound just completely interesting and fun. But what we're talking about is vulnerability. And I think that's a perfect way to start a book club is with vulnerability. So I shared a link on that today on the Delight page and all that. Guys, do yourself a favor, go check it out. I was trying to open it in the background, but it doesn't want to open for me, and I don't know why. But it's probably my internet. So Gavin, tell me about your day yesterday. How was your day? What'd you get into?
I went downstairs because I never see Crystal right now because we have opposite schedules. So she's home in the morning, so I went downstairs to see her, and we ended up taking a nap together. And then I woke up at 4:17 thinking, oh my God, I need to be at work at 4. And like, you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you don't know what's going on? You're all messed up. You feel like you're still dreaming. That's what happened. I woke up like that. And I was like, I need to be at work like 20 minutes ago. And so I sped to work, and I'm getting there. I ain't speed to work, but like I rushed. And I'm halfway there, and I think to myself, it's kind of strange that they haven't called me yet, because usually they would call me, especially if I was that late.
Yeah.
And I pull in the parking lot, and I take out my phone real quick, and I check the schedule, and for some reason, somehow, they ain't scheduled me till 4:30.
Really?
Yeah, they never do that. I'm always scheduled at 4, so that was very lucky. And so I ended up going to work. I got to work on time. Did what I had to do there. Came back home and did some writing. Made dinner. Relaxed. Yeah.
Buddy, that sounds like a great day. And you took a nap with your girl yesterday. I know that because you and I were texting, and you're like, "Sorry, I just woke up from a nap." And I was like, "He sounds so happy there."
Yeah.
So, how's Crystal doing? She got a new job? Am I correct?
No. She's still at Sheets right now. She's a manager there. She'd like to get a new job. We're looking. She wants to get out of food service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Food service is tough. Food service is one of those where, honestly, bro, like, I did it for years. I hated it. Like, you've been doing it for how long now?
5, 6 years now.
No way. No way. You're like only 21. That means you've been doing it since 15?
Yeah.
Wow, buddy. In all honesty, like, I started around the same age. I was a busboy. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous to say, but like the truth is, I couldn't be happier with the way everything. Sorry, all of a sudden something made a noise in the background. I bumped something. I couldn't be happier with the way that the restaurant industry treated me because I grew a lot. I learned a lot through that. It's pain, it's suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that should be a what is it? Like a thing you have to do for high school. Like that should be a credit. You should have to go work for like 1 to 3 months in a restaurant. That should be like an extracurricular thing that you have to do or something for credits.
Now, you're 21 and you didn't go to college. Would you say that you have I like what they do in other countries where they do a year abroad. Would you do a year abroad if you could?
Yeah, absolutely.
I always wanted to do that, and I never did. Yoni Tikala, I do see your comment. I'm going to address this really quick because I know there's been some bad blood. Tell me who hacked. I know that's what that's supposed to be. Suddy's YouTube channel. I honestly don't know, and it wasn't me because, first off, I don't know how to hack anything. Second off, I just don't want to do anything like that. And third, I wish him nothing but the best because I truly love Sonny, and that's why I did the show with him. And when he said he was getting a better gig and was stepping away, Gavin and I decided to keep going because we really wanted to be able to spread positivity. So please know, we have no ill will towards Sonny Von Cleveland. We wish him nothing but the best, and we send positive vibes. And guys, go sub to his channel because truth is, I'm not going to spread hate. I'm going to just completely be who I've always been. And you guys have seen that. I've put that out there. And Gavin's been the same way. So, Sonny, please know we love you and we wish you nothing but the best. I am sorry because he did message me and told me he was hacked, but it was after he accused me of hacking him. And I said, buddy, I don't know what you're talking about. And we went through it. And it sounds like it was a really stressful thing. So, guys, please know we love him. We wish him nothing but the best. Leave the cooking to me. Leave the cooking to me. Miss Maritza, I absolutely have to give her praise. I love Maritza. Her son Carlito comes in. They're teaching us about cooking, healthy eating, healthy diets, why eating is essential, what we're eating is essential. And she got so into work, she decided to take a huge pipe and jam it in her eye just so she could be home and cook with her son more. That might not be the completely true story. But she did deal with some pain, and she's at home right now. So we send Maritza good vibes. We send Maritza love and appreciation.
Yeah, I remember one time when I was working, I was cooking a steak or something, but I was making it a very special way at work for one of the employees. They paid me extra to make it all special and whatnot in a saute pan instead of on the grill and season it differently. And I was basting it, and it popped the butter and got straight into my eye.
Ow!
Right on my cornea. Oh, it was so horrible. It sucked so bad. I had to go use the eye wash and rinse out. But you know what? The next day, I was completely fine. Everything just had like a yellow tint in that eye for probably like 4 hours because of the butter.
What's up, Keith? How you doing, my friend? Keith Migra right there. I'm listening to you, but you're going blind. Keith has a show that we should have Keith on. He is a professional race car driver. He's also dealing with a professional Browns player that played for the Browns.
Nice.
Keith, you're kicking butt, buddy. I wish you nothing but the best. Sending you love and good vibes, man. We've been both busy. We send each other messages. What's up, buddy? See, I love the next response. I miss you, bud. We got to get lunch sometime, but our schedules are crazy, especially with the Indians being back. I love it. But I want to say hi, Sherry McQueen. Good morning. Sherry introduced me to her new group. It's all about positivity, spreading joy. And truth be told, I'm going to share it later today so everybody can go like it, because Sherry's got some really positive things being going on, and that's what we focus on here. And yes, Keith, we do need to hook up, man. Love you, bro. I wish you the best. Keep doing what you're doing. You're kicking some serious ace, and I'm watching my mouth lately. And apparently I say the F word a lot. I got told by my mother yesterday that at 6 months old, I could say 4 words. I, from the other room, said, what were my first 4 words? 6 months old, 4 words, right? Yeah. My dad yells from upstairs, "Goddamn motherfucker." And I go, "Oh, those are 4 words. Perfect. I love it." Like, was that really my first 4 words? And my mom's looked at me and goes, No, not at all.
What was your first word?
Mama.
Mama?
Yeah.
Nice. Mine was boob.
Your first word was boob? Were you like hungry as a kid? You're like, boob.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I look at my mother, I go, "Mom, boob."
Oh,
boob.
Boob.
Yeah, that was my first word, man.
Your first word, boob. Like, that is funny. I love it. So, Gavin, tell me, let's get into today. You and I are just getting in here. I usually have a positive article to start our day with. You do too. Article. Who's your hero, Keith? Who's your hero? Wait, I know who your hero is. He was on the cover of Madden in 2012, and his best friend is now your best friend, and you guys are racing cars around Alabama, and I'm jealous that Arkansas. I said the wrong one. Arkansas, and I'm jealous I don't get to come down there and race go-karts and race cars with you. But I'm probably glad I'm not getting tackled by Peyton Hillis, so that would hurt. I love you, bro. I'm sorry. ADD kicking in here this morning. So, Gavin, I was actually going through all my positive things that I try to do for myself to be sane. Yeah. And it's tough at times. It's tough. Wouldn't you say, like, to stay positive? How do you keep yourself going positive while I find my article?
I think it's just been a lot of different philosophies that I've studied over the past. I think it's a mix between the different things I've had to experience, and I look up and down myself and I see I'm fine. Mentally, I definitely have some scars, but to me that builds character. That's what makes us us. So a lot of the time, as kind of cliche and simple as it sounds, I think, hey, you know what? No matter what, I'm always going to want it better. And no matter what, somebody has always had it worse. Shitty things happen, and it's only for now. And then I start to get, and like that's like the very, very basic part of it. It goes a lot deeper than that, because then I start thinking about death and how not only am I temporary, but everything is temporary. And then I start thinking about how it gets to the point where eventually every single thing to ever happen will eventually be forgotten. So it's almost as if it's never happened, which I try not to use as an excuse to be a dick. But just as I just try to remember that, hey, everything is only as serious as you make it. And most of the time, a bad situation usually isn't as bad as you think it is. It's all relative. And then from there, I'll try to think of it from another person's perspective. Like, okay, what if I was my coworker and I came up and told myself this? How would I think about it if I wasn't me? Would I really care about it? How sympathetic would I be? What advice would I try to give myself, if any at all? Or would I just be like, you'll be fine, dude, get over it?
I love it, but I'm going to twist it a little bit. And really quick, hey, Andrea, we are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Gavin and I both have our own pages up here. We have the Delight page going. We just wanted to make sure that we start every day giving people, it might not be, and perfect answer. There's always a different perspective on any situation and in every single person. Everybody interprets things their own way at time. And Andrea, do us a favor. Go give Dave a big kiss. And then when he looks you in the eyes and say, "What's that for?" say, "Gavin wanted to say hi."
Thank you.
Yep, do it, Andrea. All the people listening, if you have a significant other, I don't care who it is, go grab them, dip them, kiss them, and say, "That was from Gavin." That's how we're going to start our mornings. Tomorrow, maybe it's from me. I don't know. Maybe it's from Mr. Rogers. Who knows? But grab your significant other, dip them, give them a kiss, tell them how much you love them this morning. And different perspectives. I knew I'd get her to laugh on that. Different perspectives are different things. Like, I think that it's kind of funny how a good example is like my dad and I. We have a different perception on what we will want on something. So like me, I like to be super clean. I'm obsessive compulsive clean. I clean my room. I clean my house. I clean my everything, but I still forget to take showers. But at the end, Gavin didn't even like budge a smile. That was a great one-liner too.
I thought you were just being serious, you know?
I really do, and that's the bipolar in me, and it's not anything. Like this morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. I'm out the door, I'm stretching. My mom sees me outside stretching, getting all myself like loose. She walks up, goes, "I have a workout video we could do together later." I'm like, "You know what, Mom? You could pick what onesie I'll wear, and I will work out with you." And my mom was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love you." So but getting that time out there, stretching, getting yourself going, getting your body into that right mindset is hard. Because the truth is, I loved that you and I would go on 9 to 11 Eastern Standard Time, but this 10 to 12 time slot, I got another hour of me being able to really break myself down, work on me, pick on Miss Jessica Dugas at the Breakthrough Show, which, by the way, Jessica, you missed it. Coming live to you from the dentist chair.
Oh, I got a dentist appointment later. I'll be at. You're in the chair right now? Her
kids are in the chair. Her kids are in the. Well, she's not able to talk. If she's not able to talk, we're the entertainment for her and the dentist right now. She's just going to have it on speakerphone sitting there.
Do they have the sunglasses for the kids? They gave me sunglasses when I went there now, because you know they have that headlight.
Yeah.
Well, I guess some people were having like vision issues, like people who had like a lot of work to be done and would go there, or like people with weak eyes that have vision issues and they get damaged from the light and it was causing lawsuits. So now they give you like they gave me at least sunglasses to wear while being in that. I thought, you know what, this is so great, because nothing was more awkward than staring in this stranger's eyes while they were just like got their jingers in my mouth, just like all the digits.
Tell me if I'm wrong on this, and I'm asking a legit question. Do you try to talk to the dentist while their hands are in your mouth?
Well, no, not while their hands are in my mouth. If they ask me a yes or no question, I'll go or but that's about it. I don't try to have a conversation though.
I must be a good conversationalist, because all of my dentists, and I mean this, all of my dentists I've ever had living in different states, they talk to me and they're like, hands are in my mouth. "So what you been up to? How's your wife? How's your this?" And I'm like, and they're like just looking at me like I'm like supposed to have swallowed all of what they just cleaned and then keep the conversation going. And it's just weird to me.
I'll talk to them like in between of things, but like I'm not like, my tongue isn't river dancing trying to figure out how to form words.
My tongue isn't river. Speaking of river dancing, Jessica Dugas' daughter, she posted a picture of the other day or today, and I want to know, Jessica, does your daughter do river dancing? Because I saw the shoes. It looked like she would be like, oh, Gavin, I love it. So my positive thing today actually came to slip in the tongue. Andrea just sent me a message. She said, Dave wants to know whose idea it was to slip in the tongue. So the tongue was from me. The kiss was from Gavin. And Andrea, you're just our vessel because you're an amazing person, and you and Dave are just great people. Gavin, so something came in the mail yesterday that I'm super excited. my book that I got. Are We There Yet? By
awesome.
Ian Pilbeam.
That's with Ice Cube, right?
It is, yes. This book is the one about the guy who traveled all over the country with his kids and everything. And he was a phenomenal interview. I plan to start this book this week. Honestly, I'm going to tag him later today. This was a great guy, and I recommend people check it out. Ian Pilbeam, we interviewed him last week. Check out the book. It arrived yesterday. This is why I asked if you could do a year abroad anywhere. Would you do it? Because
I actually have been thinking, and because I have a whole bunch of money saved up that I've been putting for a house, but I'm thinking about dipping into some of that probably at the end of the year, and I might go live in like another country for a year or so.
See, that's funny. I was going to talk to you about doing something. I was going to say, Gavin, do you want to jump in a car and like a bus or something and drive to every single state across the United States?
Yeah.
Have breakfast. Like we go see Jessica. We go see Andrea and them. And Andrea, before you tell me you're in Canada, don't worry. We'll find a way in. Like, just help us become citizens, okay? That way we get free healthcare. That's all we ask. Are you Mormon? Because then you can have Gavin, me, and Dave as your husbands. And
I think that only works for the men.
Oh, so she's reverse Mormon. I can't be sexist. I'm willing to be the third husband. Let me know if that's okay with you. So if you would want Gavin and I to come to your city and do a breakfast show with you and your people just walking around, write in the comments now, like exactly what you want. Like, how would you want us to do breakfast? I'll see what the laws are like. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate it. Slip that tongue in on Dave and turn around and tell Dave you have 2 new husbands. Jessica Dugas, we would literally come down to you, I think, as one of our first stops. It goes both ways. What, the tongue?
Oh, no, the being Mormon.
Oh, it does. Oh, Sarah would know that. She's been trying to get me to let her have a second husband for years. Yeah. Like, I tried letting other people have her, but for some reason, I'm the one that I get very blessed to have a woman like her in my life. And I'm just being honest. She has been nothing but supportive. She knows what I'm going through right now, and I'm lucky. I'm very lucky that I have somebody that cares for me. But yes, being on the road, I would go see Jessica Dugas. I love you, Jessica, but the truth is I want to hug Phil. And I want to have your kids sing to Gavin and I like a morning at the Von Trapp family. Like Gavin and I walk in the front door and it's like, hello, 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 hello. Oh, Gavin and the Duganettes. Nope, got no on that face. So, Sarah, would you take a second husband? Like have 2 or 3 husbands if you could do reverse polygamy? I'm just curious. Ask your girl, too.
Oh, I know she wouldn't.
Can you shut the door?
Dad, I'm working here.
Dude, my door's open, and I shut it. He came in to ask me a question. Then he turns around and leaves both doors open, and he's telling me to be quiet. I'm like, shut the door. Brian Tracy, come follow me around for a while. Bro, I'd follow you around. Wait, I don't know. And I'm asking Brian, how many people can fit in your truck? Because could you imagine Gavin and I just sitting in the back, like, talking all day? Because I talk all day.
Well, depending on what kind of truck he has, I believe that they have beds and storage area in there specifically for doing extremely long hauls. Like, I don't know if that's the kind of truck that he has, but I know there are trucks that do have like a bunk in them for truckers to be able to like pull over at stops and take naps in and whatnot.
I got you. And I've heard that, but I don't think that it's big enough where the 3 of us could sleep in the same bed. I mean, I'm willing to cuddle. I'm a cuddle monster, and I I really do want to design an app one day called the Cuddle App, and you go on, and it's for people who just don't want a relationship. They literally just want somebody like that. They fall asleep next to people better. But the thing is, there's a lot of creeps out there, buddy.
I feel like I saw that somewhere, but I can't remember if it was a legit thing or like an SNL skit. I can't remember.
It was a real thing.
Okay.
And it was in New York, and it got shut down because people were signing up and they were creepy as hell. Like, dude, imagine like me. I walk into your house, okay, and I'm like, hey, I'm your cuddle buddy, and all my energy, and then we lay down. Like, you want to be cuddled, right? Not have anything. Like you're not trying to sleep with them. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to be you feel that energy of the other person. Even in, that's why I like cuddling. I could fall asleep in the middle of a room of 50 people, and if all of us woke up cuddling, I guarantee we all end up spooning the same way. So
I have the solution to that. So you have a cuddle facility where everybody goes there. You pay a admission to get into that, and what your admission is paying for is the tablet of the small dose of psilocybin mushrooms that you have to take, and then you just form a cuddle puddle. It's not enough to make you see stuff, but it's enough to get.
So we microdose you?
Yes.
So we microdose.
Yeah.
But you're not going to fall asleep on microdosing, just so you know.
Oh, well, do you want to sleep or do you want to cuddle? You don't need to sleep. It's just to make a cuddle puddle. That's all. You lay there, you have good conversation, and you just enjoy people's company.
Did you just say a cuddle puddle?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
I've never heard that. I love that.
Never heard that.
No, bro, you're much younger than me. I heard fleek for the first time like 6 years ago, and I used it in a sentence wrong. And let me just tell you, using it in a sentence wrong, full of a room full of young girls, was not right for me. I got picked on very hard.
Oh my god, that reminds me. Macaulay, did you have Macaulay Culkin? And what's her name? Something Brenda Song just had a kid. I didn't even know they were together.
I didn't know they were together till I saw they had a kid yesterday. 100%.
It was really weird for me because he was on the Joe Rogan Experience in 2018, and he was talking about it. He sounded so like kind of awkward when he said it. He was talking about his girlfriend. He was talking about how that she's Asian, like how beautiful she is. He's like, yeah. Gonna make some babies. I'm gonna put some babies in that, and they're gonna be beautiful. So definitely gonna be putting some babies in that. I got a good one. I can't wait. And the way he's describing it, I'm like, this is such a weird way to talk about your significant other and having children. I wonder who this woman is who is with him. And sure enough, I see last night that they had a son. And I'm like,
what?
Richie Rich and London Tipton. What?
Richie Rich. You didn't go Macaulay Culkin and what's it? Home Alone. What's his name?
Kevin Baxter, right?
Yes. So you're not gonna get this joke, but I felt old watching Home Alone this year. It did, because I saw the house. I realized the dad paid for a trip for 11 people to go to France for the holiday.
Yeah.
I realized how much that guy must have made as a dad to have that many kids, that much stuff, and still afford that house. And he's like what I'm at now in age. I felt very much like a failure because of that. I'm like, I can't afford to go to Paris, like Canada.
All right, well, we'll put this in perspective. One, he probably, since he has so many kids, has been forced into some sort of job where he works constantly, like around the clock in an office where he never sees them. He also could have been saving up for a while, and in that nice fancy office job that he kills himself in, he probably also kills himself working in. He kills himself working at this nice office job. He saved up all this money. He probably got a nice bonus as well for this trip. So there's got to be some perspective of that too. No, don't feel like a failure.
So my question,
and it's also a fictional movie.
Touche.
Yeah.
Actually, the mom in that movie is from Schitt's Creek now.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched Schitt's Creek?
I have not, but I've heard good things. Oh, and also inflation. It was probably a lot cheaper to go to Paris back then than it is now.
It probably was. That's true.
Yeah.
It was also.
Was that for what? Was that before 9/11?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, so then it was definitely cheaper because there wasn't as much security and whatnot going on.
It was also the 80s, so he probably was a coke dealer. I
Oh,
mean,
if he was working in an office, absolutely he was doing blow. No way he wasn't.
I have to. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
Like
If
that's yeah.
if he was a higher up in an office, he most definitely was doing a line now and again to keep up with all those kids. Like, yeah, he had to keep up somehow.
He did. He did. So, for today's positive news, I have some good news for you and I. I have a physical trainer coming in next Tuesday to work you and I out.
Cool.
So you and I get a little bit of time to keep doing our bodies and making sure that we're eating right. Maritza's making sure we're doing that. We're meditating, reading, whatever we're doing to build our best selves. You and I are making sure we talk about it to put ourselves out there. We're being vulnerable, which Brene Brown says is like the best way to be.
Yeah.
And so we're out there, we're being vulnerable. But here's the thing that's interesting to me is Paris, Ontario is cheaper. And the mom from Schitt's Creek, also a Canadian. She is, and very true. Actually, everybody except for one actor in that whole show was. It's David's boyfriend. He ended up being. There's a gay couple in the show. Eugene Levy is the dad.
Oh, I did that because I don't know the show. I don't know who the characters are. You said David's boyfriend. I was like, oh, David, duh. Like,
duh, David.
Of course, Sally.
But David Rose is his name, and he literally he steals the show, and he's Eugene Levy's actual son. And what a lot of people don't realize is they have a cafe they go to all the time, and the girl that owns the cafe, Twyla, is his actual sister and Eugene Levy's daughter. And this show has won awards. This show has gone above and beyond. It connects in a different way. They take the love of couples and show it in a way that isn't offensive. So people who are maybe a little homophobic can actually watch this and they don't feel that. They don't see that. Their anger should not be something that's shown. And that was kind of the reason I enjoyed the show, is it really opened up some boundaries in a funny way. And I like when people break boundaries down.
Yeah.
So Gavin, awesome. Tell us about what you got going on this week. You have an interview this week that you got planned, or it got bumped, didn't it?
Yeah. It got bumped. There was some scheduling mishaps that happened with that, so we ended up bumping it to I want to say Thursday afternoon. I'll be recording it, and then it'll be released later that day, assuming that all goes well and nothing needs to be edited in it. But with Lady Redneck, she is an up and coming country artist, singer, songwriter. So very excited to talk to her. I'm not huge into the country genre, especially not a mainstream type of country. A lot of the country I listened to was probably closer to folk music. I listen to a lot of folk. Yeah, I really enjoy that. So I'm definitely excited to get this new perspective. The only other country singer I've really ever talked to was when we had what was his name?
Osmond.
Osmond, yes. We had Nathan Osmond on once upon a time ago. And so that was the only ever time that I ever talked to like a country singer. And even then we talked more about him in general and not specifically the music that he did. So I'm very excited to get into that deeper. I have that going on. I got a dentist appointment today. I have to go to the post office to send in my guitar so I can finally get a new one. I've been struggling and arguing with this damn insurance company for like a month now. So I'm trying to get that all sorted out with my new guitar and just writing and doing the show and working. I got, Wednesday I'll be doing trivia at Hatfield's Good Grub. Be doing trivia night there. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I'm excited to do that again. And then Thursday I'll be at Tony K's doing karaoke.
Now, you have been doing this for a little bit now, the karaoke, the DJing. Are you enjoying that?
Oh, I love it. It's honestly, it's so great because my goal right now is to, and I've talked to my boss, and it's going to be happening as soon as we find the shows, but my goal is to have 4 to 6 shows a week. And by doing that, I will be making as much. If I do 4 shows a week, then I'll be making as much as I do at Olive Garden. If I get any more than that, I'll obviously be making more shows that I do at I'm making more money than I do at Olive Garden. But I'll also be working a quarter of the hours.
So you're doing that is awesome. And you're doing Hatfield's Good Grub today?
Wednesday I'm doing trivia there, yes. And then they also want me to start doing karaoke in the future on, I believe, Fridays when the crowds start to build up.
Bro, that's incredible. I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you.
That's great news. And you're a great DJ. You keep the crowd going and all that. Mandy Atterbury, I see your comment here, and her and I got to catch up yesterday. She's really going through it. She's going through a divorce. She's dealing with a whole bunch of just pain and suffering. So, guys, do us a favor. Send Mandy Atterbury some good vibes, some good energy. Let her, you don't have to say anything to her, but take a moment to just, even if you don't know who she is, just think of her and send her a good vibe, because she's really been going through it the last few months. And I know all of us have, but yesterday she messaged me and you could see she was in a pretty hard place. So I just want to send her good energy and let her know she's loved. So just so everybody has that.
The best advice that I could give you, Mandy, for a divorce is research and get a good lawyer, and then just trust that lawyer, because divorce lawyers are some of the meanest sharks out there, and they will take care of it for you. They don't want you to worry about things. They just want you to pay them, and they'll take care of the rest. So do that, and then go find a grief counselor.
And my ex-wife's attorney was amazing. Somehow we split all the credit cards. She maxed them out to pay her attorney, and I got the one. For real, get this. This is the BS that her attorney pulled. And it's good. I paid it off. It's dead, but it's funny, but dead serious. She and I got divorced.
Yes.
We split the credit cards in half. Okay. So I got some, she got some, right? Yeah. She then uses the ones I got to pay her lawyer, and I got stuck paying those bills because those were the credit cards I got. So I paid for her lawyer.
Yeah.
I didn't have as good of a divorce attorney. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you get a good divorce attorney.
Get a great attorney, and then go get a grief counselor as well.
And a grief counselor is essential. A grief counselor is a need for that. And honestly, Gavin, let's do this really quick. I'm going to switch it on us for a second. Okay. Therapy. Therapy is not something that people talk about very much. We talk about it on here. We talk about it in other ways. But I think everybody needs to take a moment for therapy. They need to take a moment to actually understand that a therapist is not just a room with somebody to get medicine from or stuff like that. A therapist is someone you should literally be able to develop yourself with, to grow with, to know who you are, and actually start finding your best you. And if you find somebody that you don't think you're getting that out of, you're allowed to go find another therapist.
Absolutely.
Sending prayers your way. I'm Mandy from Sherry. And then Andrea is saying, I'm actually looking into the training courses for grief counseling. Andrea and Andrea and Dave are just a great couple. I honestly think that they are the cutest thing, and they put great pictures up. And their kid, he is just a ball. I love their son when he comes on. So Gavin, this week we have no workout, and it's our last time without a workout. But next week we have a business coming in. His name is Joe. Joe looks like a Molly dealer, but he is a personal trainer.
Such a drug.
The funny thing is, when you see him, I'm going to make that joke. Joe either looks like a Molly dealer or an undercover cop. He's one or the other. There's no other in between. And when you see Joe's face, it's Joe from the Wednesday night shows. He's actually a trainer. Yeah. He's going to work you and I out. He's going to pick on us and all this. But he's also offering a 1 month, which would be a $400 class for everybody who shares, likes, comments over the next week. You got to share an episode at least one. And we're going to put everybody's name into a wheel of doom. And then we're going to spin the wheel on the H. And Joe is going to give you a free month he's going to create a diet plan, a workout plan, and a mental health plan with you. Oh, dude, he'll send it to you in this package. It's amazing. Motivation in your morning. It has a diet plan on there. Like, so you get a motivational thing that like 20 minutes at most, and then you write about it. And then you have, and you do that while you're working out. So that way, two things at once. The diet part is literally he helps you find the food. So you tell him what you're looking for. I want to have more energy. I want my arms to be toned. I want my chest to be this, whatever. He's able to take what you want and help you put it together. And he's offering that 1 month. Every single day you'd have connections and be able to start the day with positivity and build your best you. So do yourself a favor, go hit that share button right now. Every single person who shares an episode this week, we're putting into a roll, and you can win a $400 prize of 1 month free training from Joe Holdreth.
Can I win as well for being a host of the show, or do I got?
I actually asked that, and he said yes.
All right, cool. I want my name in there.
But you have to share it because I already put you on here as like a.
What do you mean I have to share it? It goes to my page live.
I'm sorry, buddy. Gotta share it. I gotta see that you
share it. Where?
I don't know. Wherever you want.
I can't share it. Post it to my page.
I mean, you technically could, and then you just send it to your girl's page.
I guess.
So what you're telling me? So what you're telling me is you already have this classified as shared because it's shared right there?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
I'm the one making the content.
I will take that. I will take that. Gavin, you crack me up. Shared from YouTube or Facebook or both? Honestly, if you share from either, I will be okay. I would prefer one or the other. We are 4 fans away from having 800 people follow Delight Cafe, and we are 6 away from having 120 people subscribe to the network. So if you share either one, we're looking to have it grow. We're looking to spread positivity. The minute we see this really start taking off, I'm going to try to convince Gavin to jump on the road and go visit people like Jessica Dugas, Sherry McQueen. We're going to go all over. And I think Colorado's calling our names. Gavin wants to go battle a California wildfire, see what it's like.
I thought about that the other day. No, I was driving to work today. I was like, you know what? How do you go about becoming a firefighter? What if I just do that?
So you can sign up to be a volunteer firefighter, but
I want to make money. I want to make money doing it.
Hey, I'll introduce you to my brother-in-law. He just retired from being a firefighter. Yeah. I call him Grandpa because he is a lot older than my sister. And yep, that's all I could say on that. A lot. And
you call your brother Grandpa?
I do. I tell him he's Grandpa.
Sweet home Alabama.
That's not what I meant it as, but yes, I'm gonna go with it. He is one of the nicest guys, and he loves my niece so much. Like, he loves my sister and my niece, so he's a great guy. But he's like 60, and my sister's like 32. So I pick on them, saying like he could be her grandpa. He looks like he's my age, though. Like, for real, he's jacked, former firefighter, nice guy. I would pick on him all day, but at the end of the day, I do love him, and he does a lot of great things. Yeah. So Gavin, you and I started reading this book, and we have people getting into it. We have people starting to join us with it. We're having a lot of fun with this new book. So what are your thoughts on Brene Brown's the first book we're reading as a thing? We've only done chapter 1. It's been vulnerability. What are your feelings on it so far? How do you like it?
I finished the book in like a night.
I told everybody that, and they laughed. They were like, Gavin's such an overachiever. And I'm like, I thought we were doing the whole book too. I actually almost had it done.
Yeah.
So the conversation got so deep, like right away. Yeah. Because it's about vulnerability and like shedding yourself off. And some of the quotes that we got out of this were how to be vulnerable, it's like unzipping like your skin and opening up to people. Yeah. And we had this conversation that just broke down barriers for everybody, and it was so much fun.
You have to get, before I can talk about it, because so like I said, I listened to it all the way through, so I'm not exactly sure where chapter 1 began and where the last chapter ended. Like, I'm not exactly like that. That's the only part of the book that I know. I'm not sure where the chapters were broken up into in my mind. Because I did it at work. I thought that the narrator was a little bit slow, so I put it on like 1.5, the YouTube speed, and then just blasted through the damn thing. Like,
that's funny. That is funny. You're just like, nope, going through it.
Yeah. So what was chapter 1?
It's all about vulnerability. Okay. I just shared a link for it for everybody where they can easily go. That was the intro
when she was Was that when she was talking about the TED Talk that she did?
So that's exactly it. She opens up talking about the Yep. So she did a TED Talk, Brene Brown, about being vulnerable, being in front of people, opening up, being open, honest to people, showing a raw side of yourself and all that. And she was so scared to do it, but she actually got brought back and was asked to speak at the TED conference, then got asked to speak at another TED conference, was the international one. And all of her stuff.
On top of that, her podcast was put up on like their main page of the website or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. She literally was being an example of what it's like to be vulnerable. And with her book, she talks about, they talk about how she had to let go of her own insecurities and let go of her own stuff to be able to go up in front of these groups. She didn't think she was going to bring anything. She didn't think she was going to be able to, she didn't think she was going to be able to be her own self. And then when she was raw, she was open, she was there. It made it where people connected with her in such a way. And I think that that's a big thing, because being vulnerable opens up your day, opens up your mind.
Well, she even said that the other people who had went before her kind of forced her to do that in a sense, because she was looking for somebody to copy or just hold on to and base her speech off of. And there wasn't anyone that she was really resonating with. And she was like, oh shit, I kind of have to just completely do this on my own and be myself. And then she also saw how authentic everybody else was being and how much the crowd was really loving it. I really think that TED Talk showed, because I did end up going and listening to it. I think that talk showed how powerful it is to be authentically vulnerable in an appropriate way, which she talks about later in the book. She talks about things like different types of oversharing, or there was a couple other tactics that she talked about where people will come off, it'll be like cringy and uncomfortable for the listener, but to be authentic and to be vulnerable in the way that she was, it was so powerful that it was able to become a basically like a poster child for TED Talk for a minute there.
100%. And I think that that's a great thing. I think that's what we do by coming on here, being vulnerable, but I love doing this with you. So I actually have some good news before our guest gets here this morning. Sound good?
Yeah, what you got?
All right. So on this day in history, good news in history on April 13th, okay? 501 years ago today, a final masterpiece from the Italian Renaissance painter Raphael, yes, Raphael, same one that's on my arm, was hung on display in the Vatican 1 week after the artist's death. The culmination of his career and transfiguration became the most famous oil painting in the world. This is that oil painting. Like, you see how beautiful that is right there? Wow. And they hung it in the Vatican. And he worked on it until his death on April 6th. He died. Oh my God, he died at 37. Him and I were the same age. It stood 13 feet tall at the head of its casket. Unusual for its simultaneous depiction of two separate stories from the Bible, Jesus' transfiguration and the healing of the possessed boy, in the lower part of the painting. It stands as an allegory of transformation. It can be seen in the Vatican Museum in the Vatican City today. More good news on this day. Soul singer Al Green now preaches at a church. He started his preaching years ago today. The Roman Catholic Church in the United Kingdom voted on Parliament with the royal assets of the Roman Relief Catholic Act. And Harold Washington was elected the first African-American mayor in Chicago. And last but not least, Tiger Woods was the first African-American golfer ever to win a major, became the youngest player ever to win the U.S. Masters in Augusta, Georgia, leaving his opponents so far behind and smashing every record in the book with a margin of 12 strokes.
That's amazing. My mother actually, when she used to work at Einstein's Bagels, she served Tiger Woods and had no idea who he was. Completely oblivious to who he was.
He actually was not ever wanting to be as famous as he was. His dad instilled that in him.
Yeah.
And he never wanted that. And it was a very difficult situation for him because he didn't know how to break from it. Tiger was told since he was like 2 years old, he is the greatest golfer ever, and championships are what's going to define him. Yeah. And he believed that. And when he went out in public, so this is a true story. Yeah. Him and Michael Jordan are in Vegas. Okay. And Jordan and him are about to go party, gamble, do their thing, because Jordan's a big gambler. Tiger looks at Michael and goes, I don't know how to pick up girls. For real. Dead serious. This is a true story. It's in the documentary on him. And he goes, I don't know how to pick up girls. And Michael Jordan looks at him and he goes, just tell them you're Tiger Woods. And that was like a moment for Tiger where his mind just like, and he goes from being like, oh, I'm just a golfer to like, I have to win, to realizing that his personal life is different. And when you've never had that, that just opened up the floodgates for him. And then it turned his life into a whole different thing. I wonder could you think what would have happened if he never got into the party scene? He might have been the greatest golfer ever for real. He was dominating. And then all of a sudden he got into a party lifestyle. He got into a whole bunch of problems. And the truth is, fame can do that to you. You got to be able to know your boundaries. And I think Tiger trained so much for golf. It was really hard, you know?
Yeah, it's almost as if he never made those mistakes when he was younger to figure them out.
Yeah. 100%.
And from the 100. Sound of his dad sounds like he was a damn stand-up guy, so he definitely didn't learn it from him like he didn't learn from watching his father's mistakes. You know, he just got the warnings, hey, don't do this. It'll mess up your life.
Just being honest, his dad was a very, very negative influence on him mentally and personally. Oh. He did teach him a lot of great things, but at the end of the day, his father was one of the big things in the documentary that focused on what changes Tiger had when his dad passed away and how he embodied his father later. It was a pretty heavy story, man. I enjoyed it. Wow. HBO. Yeah. So today we have a special guest, buddy. I'm excited for today's guest. I was reading his bio. I was going through his stuff. He's a prize-winning novelist. Nick Bones. Underground is a romp through dystopic New York City. It is. I am an architectural. My screen. Articulate, stimulating interview subjects. Whew. Buddy, my brain does not wake up yet. It's not even that early anymore. I am the author. Thanks, man. I am an author, editor, rabbi, social activist, and thinker. He holds a Ph.D. in philosophy and an MFA. I have to be honest, I don't know what that means, but because he's a rabbi, I don't want to make a joke using the F word because I totally did not think that was going to be something like that. His genre-bending novel uses sci-fi formats to entertain the strength and imagination, but also to ask serious questions about AI, religion, interhuman relations, and the problem of good versus evil. He walks, he bikes, he swims, he blogs, he writes flash fiction, even as he plows away on the Nick Bones sequel. He is a husband, father, and a grandfather. His name, Phil McCohen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce Mr. Phil. Good morning.
How you doing, Phil?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. By the way, it's Phil M. Cohen. I'm not Irish. Phil.
Yeah, I heard him say that. I looked down. I'm like, there's no C. There's no C there.
I wish I was Irish. I wish I was Irish, but I'm not.
No,
Could you be an Irish rabbi? Is that a thing?
Well, there's a couple out there.
Okay.
I mean, would you wear the kilt?
Well, that would be Scottish.
I son of a gun! I did that without even thinking. I was so excited to talk about a kilt. That was my fault for not putting that two together. So, and you have a Ph.D. Should we call you Dr. Phil?
Well, you can call me Phil. You can call me Dr. Phil. You can call me Rabbi Doctor. But I think for the sake of this interview, Phil will be sufficient.
Heard that, Phil.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Phil. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So I was going through your website, which I have right here for everybody to be able to check out. And your website has a lot of cool stuff on it. Nick Bones Underground. Can you tell me a little bit about this? It's a mystery and all this. I have not had the chance to read it. I skimmed the bio of it, but I'm getting to talk to the author. I'm intrigued. Tell me about how you came up with this book and what the mystery is.
Well, how I came up with this book really goes back to a very long way. The idea of Nick Bones, the idea of the name Nick Bones came to me at a time when I was feeling under some pressure, and it was just a reaction to the creation of the name, not anything more about the book. Creation of the name was, I'm going to be a tough guy. Nobody messes with Nick Bones, which is actually a line that's in the book with a stronger word than messes with. But the idea, let me tell you how the book works. The main character is a fellow somewhere in his 60s who is living in a dystopic New York City. I mean, how many novels and movies and other things have turned New York into a dystopia? So I'm standing on line with a lot of other dystopic versions of New York City. In this case, it's a highly technological society, but with an interesting little twist. The computers in this world have gone slightly awry, and I mean slightly. This isn't this isn't computers going violent and taking over the world as in Terminator. They're just slightly awry. You take a driverless Uber, for instance, in this world, and it lets you off 5 or 6 blocks from your destination. Or another such character, another such AI type could get lost in thought about this or that and neglect to let you off on the wrong floor, neglect to let you off on your floor in the elevator. So that's kind of like the background. There's also been some economic debacle, and the world is poor, and there are a lot of other things going on that were fun to create and fun to draw, and will play a role in the sequel. One important one being that there's a subterranean city beneath New York, which has been given the name the Velvet Underground. Of course, a play on the old rock and roll band, and it's a pretty thorough city with transportation and governance and a gay coffee shop, and that's where a lot of the action of the novel takes place. But what's the action? So the main character had previously, some years previous to the opening of the book, suffered a heart attack, and out of that he makes a commitment to be really firm about exercise. He lives in Brooklyn. He lives in Park Slope, and he bikes every day about 20 miles around Prospect Park, which is right outside his door. And one day, in such a ride, he sees an old man sitting on a bench who seems to recognize him. He's not interested. The main character, Nick Friedman, isn't interested in chatting with him, but he happens to pass him by on his way back to his apartment, and this old guy leans into him and calls him by name. "Hello, Nicky." And this sets off the whole mystery. This guy, and this is in classic mystery fashion. And another trope I've stolen, but so many mysteries start with some kind of chance meeting or meeting like this. Yeah. But it turns out that this guy, he had a son who was best friends with the main character, Nick, in high school. They went to a Jewish school called the Yeshiva together, and hung together from 8th grade to 12th grade, and were very close until something happens, which is disclosed in the novel, and they don't see each other any longer. The son had designed and invented a designer drug that in its time was enormously popular. It went by the name LURBS, which turns out is an acronym for little rat babies. LURBS, which has the effect of being an hallucinogen, but at the same time it's a depressant. So you can have a very, very powerful hallucinogenic trip calmed down by the effect of the suppressant.
Yeah.
So it turns out that if you take this drug a certain number of times, you have a significant chance of going into an irreversible coma. And so the drug becomes banned. He gets arrested. The friend Shmuley Shimmer gets arrested, along with his partner Esther Lacey, and he turns evidence on Esther. Shmuley does. So he goes off on the witness relocation program. So that's the setup for the book. The son says to the father before he goes, "Dad, I'm going to be in touch with you once just to let you know that I landed safely." And the call never comes. No phone call, no email, no homing pigeon with a note, nothing. And the father's dying. He's got metastasized cancer, and he wants to know if his son is alive or dead. The character Nick has had he's a college professor of religion at an unnamed New York City university, but has had a little career and some degree of success doing missing persons work in a world where the cops just can't pursue that kind of thing because the murder rate is so high. They're distracted by that. So Nick doesn't want to take the case. The father pressures him in a kind of a negative way. I don't mean negative, but not high pressure. But he says, "Don't you like me?" and the character says, "Yeah, I always loved this guy." And for the sake of the old man, he goes looking for Shmuley Shimmer, and this takes him out into this dystopic New York City, meeting a bunch of odd characters. He gets involved with a religious sect that used to be a Hasidic religious sect, but after an event that occurs in the history of the sect, it becomes kind of rogue. It becomes kind of a New Age sect, and in the end, a certain kind of justice is done. And along the way, I think the book has some humor. It does ask some interesting questions. Characters are not bad. I won an award from the Jewish Book Council a year and a half ago, so that was my. I have boasting rights about that, but as a first,
congratulations, that's awesome.
Boast, Phil, boast.
Yeah, as a first novel, and being someone loaded with tons of insecurities, it told me that some readers thought this was a coherent novel and worthy of a prize. So now I'm out in the world talking about it, hoping to get some people interested in spending it. Currently on Amazon, it's $16, or the ebook I think is about $6. But at least, and when you study marketing, by the way, which is one of the reasons I learned that I should volunteer to be on podcasts, is I should mention a couple of times during the podcast, which I will do now, my email address, not my email, I beg your pardon, the URL from my website, where you can go and sign up, get on my email list, and in return, you'll get a free book of 8 short stories written by yours truly. And my if you get my name right, it's an easy URL to remember. It's Phil M as in Mary, Phil M Cohen, COHEN.com, PhilMCohen.com, and it would please me no end if you would sign up for the email list and have a gander at those short stories. No financial obligation.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Gavin.
I am curious, really quick, going back to the book. Do you explain? Does the book explain at all how the city became sort of a dystopia? Was it a drug issue? Was it a financial collapse? Or is that disclosed as well?
Well, there is a financial collapse.
Yeah.
But I will say that this not being the first time I've been asked that question, at first I felt kind of guilty about that. But then I realized, if you read 1984, for example,
yeah.
I don't think it explains how the world got to the situation that it got to.
Yeah.
or you see the movie Escape from New York. You don't know how it got to where it was, or
Yeah.
Brave New World. The dystopia is the dystopia, and the author reserves the privilege of not saying how the hell the world got that way. It just did.
Absolutely. No, it's completely fair.
Hello?
Yeah. No, we're still here,
Oh.
Brandon.
I was like, everything just froze, and I'm like, wait a minute. I heard Gavin and then nothing. I actually just downloaded your book. It is 8 by Cohen. I just downloaded it and signed up for your mailing list.
Well, thank you.
And then on Amazon, that's with the link I just shared for everybody, and they can be able to click it. The ones with the X, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. I'll reshare it in a minute when the internet's back up. But what made you get into mysteries? I have a list of questions here from, like, are you a New York City resident, and that is why you chose New York City? And why did you choose a mystery?
Well, the setting is roughly the apartment I lived in New York City when I went to rabbinical school. Garfield Place, for those of you who know Park Slope, Garfield Place and Prospect Park West. I don't live there currently, but but of course, New York is a great place to set anything. Now, why mystery? I guess I could say why not a mystery, but I'll give you a better answer. And that's that. There are two. I like to think I read fairly broadly in fiction and fairly broadly in general, but two of my favorite genres are science fiction and mysteries. Lawrence Block comes to mind. He created a really cool character, and I've read every one of those books. But other mysteries as well. The thing about a mystery is, even if this book doesn't entirely follow the rules of a mystery, not that rules are hard and fast, but the idea of a mystery almost always, let's say a significant number of times, involves, of course, the mystery. You're looking for somebody's died or somebody's disappeared, but it's also the opportunity to explore the world in a very directed kind of way. The detective, whether it's my character or another character, travels around, maybe often in a circumscribed area, and you meet the city, you meet the characters, and things start to fall into place. Kind of reality changes throughout the novel until almost always you get to the solution. And although not so much in this case, but often the detective does some detecting, he does some deductive reasoning, and what was unclear at the beginning becomes clear at the end in the confrontation with the villain, and so on and so on. It's a really nice it's a really nice format to create tension, character, setting, plot, and in this case, I'd like to think theme as well. There are things going on in this book that are that are thought-provoking, intentionally thought-provoking.
I love it. What I have to ask, just because I don't know, what does MFA stand for?
Oh yeah, Master of Fine Arts degree.
Whew, I was way off. I'm glad I asked, because I literally was going to make a joke, and I'm like, look, I know it's a master's in something, but I didn't want to mess it up and be insulting. So thank you for that.
If I could plug it, I went to a school in Louisville, Kentucky called Spalding University. It's a small Catholic university, but it houses one of the best low residency Master of Fine Arts programs in the country. Low res means you go there twice a year for about 10 days at a time, and in between, you leave the residency with an assignment and an assigned mentor, they call it, or an editor. And the job of the student is to produce a significant amount of work, but not in residence in the town, but back at home, and at his or her own pace. And I don't know if anybody who listens to this program is interested in getting such a degree, but this has the advantage of being relatively low cost compared to full-time universities, and relatively low residency, as the name implies. And the teaching is really good. and I graduated about 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still very much in touch with this school, which is more than I can say with any of the other schools that I've been involved with.
No.
Being honest, that's the same. I literally went, and I have 2 master's degrees, and I don't do anything with my schools. So the fact that you're still in touch with them and you're still doing things shows the connection that your schooling brought for you. And having a fine arts degree, a master's in that, after having a PhD in philosophy, to have that schooling where you feel that comfortable is a great thing. I'm glad. What was the name of the college again? That way we can make sure everybody heard it.
Yes, Spalding University in Louisville.
That's actually
in Louisville. They say Louisville. They don't say Louisville.
Yep, Louisville, and in Illinois they say Illinois, not Illinois, because there's no noise in Illinois. I learn little tricks with each city as I go.
I'm curious too, what exactly do you do with the? You said you keep in contact with the school. Are you just continuously do they keep saying, "Hey, can you donate some more money? Be a good alumni to us," or are they having you come in and speak to new students? Maybe do like little seminars for classes and whatnot. What exactly are you doing when you're keeping in contact with them?
Well, for one thing, I just have. I don't want to minimize this, but there's an administrator in the school, the associate director, with whom I have regular contact. I'd like to think we've become friends over these couple of years, but more than that, they have 2 events a year: homecoming and another event to which they invite alumni at no cost, which is great. You have to pay for the hotel.
Yeah.
But the actual program itself is kind of donated to alumni. So, last year's homecoming, this year's homecoming are going to be virtual, but in past years and hopefully future years, I'll make my way to Louisville for a few days and see faculty, see friends, and I don't know that this is going to happen, but I submitted a proposal to give a lecture at this upcoming homecoming, which maybe they'll accept it, maybe they won't.
Well, I hope they do. That'd be awesome. Now that you have the book out and you've won awards for it, then that would definitely be something as well to help persuade them to allow you to do that lecture. So hopefully you do get to go through it. One question I do have about your writing process. So you write fiction. I know for those who don't know, I'm sure everyone watching does know, but if you don't know, fiction is it's fantasy. It's something that is not fact. It's based off facts all the time, and it's based off of personal experiences. Do you write your characters based off of people that you know in real life, like family members, friends, like Nick Bones? Is that like a specific, maybe a student or a teacher that you had in class, or like a best friend from a childhood or something like that they were loosely based on?
No, in this case, I mean, there are little bits of things that I pulled out of my experience, but the actual portraits of people, not so much. I mean, there's an African American woman character in the book, and I drew her. I wrote her to look like a friend of mine, but only physically. There's no personality resemblance. So in that sense, I mean, I do know. I do know I do know people who base characters on real people. There was in 1970s there was a mystery series written by a guy named Harry Kemmelman in the Boston area, the North Shore of Boston. He wrote a series of books. The first one maybe has the most famous title. It's Friday the Rabbi Slept Late. So he creates a rabbi character, David Small. And he's the rabbi of a synagogue in the North Shore of Boston. Well, I have a friend who grew up in that synagogue, and she tells me that his portrayal of the characters are often painfully close, and he rather irritated the people who they may do that. It's a kind of in a sense it's a help. It's an aid in drawing. Yeah. If I want to base something on, my good friend Louis, well, I don't want it to be literally Louis, but it'll help me physically and maybe something about his personality. But in this book, the characters, although the characters have echoes, and especially the main character has, I would say, certain echoes of me, but he's not me. He's got little pieces of me in it, but there's nobody in the book who, if somebody read it, would say, that's me, and I hate him for doing that, or I love him for doing that. He turned me into a hero or a villain. It's not like that.
So my question would be, what do I need to do to be your best friend to be a character in the next book?
Have me back on.
Deal. Phil's coming back. I could be the bad guy even. I'm just saying. Actually, my next question, some Stovetop Yum Yum, one of our regulars, stole from me. Did you write the book all on your own? Because I know you're a writer, you're an editor, you have your own blog. Or did you have a ghostwriter help you with this?
Well, no, the answer is I wrote it on my own, but I will tell you, I can sort of extend that question. Now, by the way, I already see how you're going to fit into the book. You're going to be the obnoxious podcaster.
You found my role.
Who's podcasting misinformation and doing damage to the world. Actually, that's not it wouldn't be based on you, but actually, I'll get back to your question in a second. I mean, I am at the moment working not as diligently on the sequel as I would like, and as I'm lazily pursuing the sequel, ideas come to me, and this is like a real possibility. So, well, thanks for that.
Absolutely. Does he mess up your name at the beginning? I bet.
Oh, that would be good. That'd be good. There you go. There's an ongoing kind of joke in the book. It's in the first one, and maybe the second one, is that people from his past keep popping up in this book, and they call him Nicky, which was the name that he went by as a teenager. But at a certain point, he didn't want to be Nicky anymore, just Nick. But throughout the book, people call him Nicky, and he's always correcting them. So that's a little different from what you're saying.
Yeah, but I do like that. That shows because you said that eventually he doesn't like that. So that shows a change in character. It shows like a maturity or like a turning point.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's in the past, and hold on to that. Let me answer the other question first, and I'll get to that in a second because it's an important plot point. Are you allowed to say the F word on this podcast?
Fuck yeah, you are.
Oh, I got it. So I don't have a ghostwriter, but I've had 3 serious editors, three different people. One of them looked at about half the book, and her contributions were enormous. And then another fellow read the whole book before I submitted it to a publisher, and then the publisher assigned an editor. So I'm a big fan of the editing process, and through my own education, but also through my own experience at being edited, I think I've acquired some skill at that. But editing, there's this ad that comes up on YouTube. I'm a bit of a YouTube junkie. Yeah, there's an ad that comes up, and a writer trying to sell his school or his participation in a school says, revision is the process of making your book look like you knew what you were talking about from the beginning, and that's absolutely right. That's part of the editing process, self-editing, but also through the assistance of other editors. Gavin, I lost that train. That thought. What did you ask me? Oh, it changes. So that's a little bit of character development, and it's also the opportunity for kind of an ongoing joke. But in the first half of the book, this character, he's not exactly a milquetoast, but he finds himself getting more and more drawn into things that are dangerous. And finally, he's attacked in the middle of the day by three tough guys, and he's kind of smart enough to figure out how to overcome them. And so he overcomes them, but also one of them drops a snub-nosed pistol, which then becomes a part of the rest of the book. And it's at that point, he says in the narrative, nobody fucks with Nick Bones, and that's a turning point. I mean, he doesn't become like James Bond through the rest of the book, but he's a decidedly different character from that point on.
Yeah, he's like, this is where I stand. This is my backbone.
Yeah, like that.
I like that a lot. My brain is still, because it is still a bit early for me. I am waking up, so my brain is still kind of backtracked a little bit, and I'm imagining how you were talking about people or the one guy who was writing characters eerily similar to people that he knew, and I'm imagining what if a like a pastor wrote a book that was just all the characters were based off of people in the church who confessed their sins to him, and they were all like reading it like, what the fuck, but they can't say anything because none of them want to like out themselves to people. And then you start talking about how also you go down like the YouTube rabbit hole. It is really it's difficult to stay out of that now because YouTube and streaming services have really sort of they've completely replaced at this point cable television.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say completely. I mean, I get Hulu, I get Amazon Prime, I get Disney Plus. My daughters and I share subscriptions. I've got about 4 or 5 of these streaming channels. Yeah, but
those are streaming though. It's not like cable. You're not. Yeah.
Right. Cable is dead. Cable is pretty much dead. Or classic cable. The companies are trying to reinvent themselves.
Correct. I think video killed the radio star. But for me, there you go. I knew I got Gavin to smile on that. Have you always wanted to write a book?
Yeah, actually. But I put it aside. So I'll tell you a little bit about that process. I don't know how fascinating this is going to be for you viewers, but when I finished college, I took one creative writing course in college, and I did well. I mean, besides getting an A, I wrote a fairly long story that the teacher at least liked. Now, I read it several years later, and it was an undergraduate story, but it held together, and it was, I think, about 25 pages long, maybe longer. And I explored the possibility then of getting a Master of Fine Arts degree, what we call in the field an MFA. And I applied to one school, Johns Hopkins, which had, and I think still has, a well-known program, and I got rejected. And being who I was at the time, I decided not to pursue it any further, but ended up going to rabbinical school, which was not a bad choice. Besides that, it gave me a career. It gave me a meaningful career. But along the way, I do these little creative things. But when I was doing my doctoral dissertation, I came up with the idea for this book. Although it was set in real time, not in the future, but had a similar kind of a plot. And every time I would get sort of bored or tired or frustrated with writing my dissertation, I would pick up this file and played with it, and actually had written, I don't know, let's say 100 pages. Certainly not much more than that. And it lay in my hard drive for ages, literally for quite some time, until one day I showed it to a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, that's pretty good." The person was a writer, and that was enough for me to pick it up. And then in my rabbinic journeys, I found myself in Prescott, Arizona, that had a community college with a creative writing class in it, and I took the class. I took the first semester, I took the second semester, and then I was sold. Then I saw that I was interested in it. I wasn't bad at it. And then as part of what I did second semester, I took this manuscript, and every week I submitted a chapter or a piece of the chapter. But it took a long time. The sequel can take, but it has to take but a fraction of that time. This took a long time to finish. Right.
Who were your inspirations? Like, did you like what? As I bump my desk, and there's my mom. See, you get to meet all my family today.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, babe.
Who were your inspirations for a mystery novel? Like, I wrote down a few that came to my head, like Dick Tracy, people like that. Did you have any that were like an inspiration for you for being a detective?
Well, before the detective stuff, let's start with Isaac Asimov, who was primarily a sci-fi writer, but he also wrote a trilogy set in the future with a human detective who was partnered with a robot, And that's worth getting back to because of one of the second main character in the novel, who I really like to talk about. So there's a whole world of sci-fi writers. Isaac Asimov, William Tenn. Those are two that come to mind. And then there are detective writers. I like I said, mentioned Lawrence Block, but Sherlock Holmes. I like Sherlock Holmes and a whole bunch of them. So plus non-mystery writers like Philip Roth. I'm a big fan of Philip Roth. So I imagine for any writer, the totality of who the writer has read sort of sits somewhere in their cerebral cortex somewhere, and is something of an inspiration. So that's my best answer to that question.
No, that's a great one. Go ahead, Gavin. I saw you lining up.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about you have a degree in philosophy, you have a doctorate degree. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it's in Jewish philosophy. I probably should have put that into the piece.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does change my question a little bit. So I know there is a bit of I'm not sure if you're aware, there's a bit of a stigma around majoring in philosophy for college students because a lot of parents, they think, oh, what are you going to do with that? How does that really apply to life? That's just learning how to think, but that ends up becoming a lot more important than people realize. So what made you decide to go into philosophy, and were there hurdles such as that, like support from friends or family, or maybe even judgment that you faced? And then explain to me after that, if you would, please explain to me further what Jewish philosophy is a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, before I went to rabbinical school, I was asked by the rabbinical school that I eventually attended to take graduate courses. My undergraduate career was fairly dismal. I knew it at the time, and I copped to it because it was. But they saw, I guess they saw something in me.
Yeah.
They said, "All right, prove to us that you can do the academic work." I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I went to two different universities, and took 6 courses, all 5 of which had a philosophy component to them: modern Jewish philosophy, medieval Jewish philosophy. I wrote a paper on the theology inspired by the Holocaust, and during that time, with respect to one of those professors, I became close. So the idea of getting a doctorate after rabbinical school was in a sense kind of risk-free, by which I mean if there were no job at the end of that process, then I could default into some aspect of the rabbinate, which is what happened. The job market was pretty glutted when I finished, and I was older and I had 2 kids. I wasn't ready to do adjunct teaching for 4 or 5 years, writing articles till a job came along.
Yeah.
So in that sense, for me, it wasn't that wasn't an issue. Now, if you're an undergraduate in studying philosophy, and one's parents challenge that, a pretty good answer is, look, liberal arts are dying. This is my last perhaps my last opportunity in my life to engage in a serious liberal arts education with a focus on philosophy. And after that, I'll go to business school or what have you, learn about supply chain economics. But along the way, I'll know who Descartes and Plato and Aristotle and Sartre are, and it may not have any practical benefit. It might. Of course, if I decide to go to law school, Mom and Dad, then I've learned a bit about critical thinking, which is an important part at least of law school. I'm not sure how much critical thinking is a part of actually being a lawyer, but certainly getting through law school, it is. So now, Jewish philosophy is really, it's actually a better question than you might think it is, because there are several different definitions of what Jewish philosophy might be. But I think for the moment, it's really when a Jew taking Judaism seriously engages in doing philosophy, using the methodology and ideas of philosophy to answer questions about what it means to be Jewish. So for instance, medieval philosophy that's very much involved in understanding God through ancient categories, through Aristotle and Plato, for example. Martin Buber, who's a contemporary, well, not a contemporary, a modern philosopher. He died in 1968, I think. He's engaged in a number of different things philosophically, by which I mean his sources come from more than just philosophy. But he takes ideas that were current at the time about relationship and turns it into a way of thinking that has a specific Jewish flavor to it. So it's like that.
Interesting. Very interesting. I did not know that. You're teaching us stuff today. I like learning. Maritza asked another good question. It was something that I was going to ask. A fairly simple. She's making a cookbook. She has her own cooking channel. She's on here on Mondays, and she and her son do healthy eating and cooking, and they're a phenomenal couple, phenomenal family. But how many editors would you recommend? And I know hers is a cookbook, but for a book, people that want to write a book, finding editors to read things and do things. Did you have an idea of how many editors you'd need, or is that more of a individual type of thing?
Well, for a cookbook, I would think you need, first of all, you need the kind of editor who understands recipes, and the narrative that goes along that may well go along with the cookbook. I mean, cookbooks these days often are thick with narratives as well as recipes. And I'd say, I don't recommend. Well, I guess I will always have two editors. One that I will hire when I finish a book, and then the second that comes along with being published. The publisher will assign an editor. So if you want to engage an editor before you submit for publication, I would say one. I don't think you need more than one, but you certainly should find one who understands the nature of a cookbook. Not just some random editor that has a good reputation about reading fiction but doesn't understand recipes.
Right. So what would you recommend all right, I'm going to rephrase this already. I rethought my question. What was the hardest part about writing a book? Because like you said, it took you a while to do it. It sat for a while. What was the hardest part for you?
Well, I would say two. I'll give you two for the price of one.
Yes.
The one was, of course, just letting the book unfold. I may be overstating, but there are basically two kinds of writers. There's the kind of writer who can outline the book ahead of time. I understand, I remember hearing this a long time ago. Earl Stanley Garner, I think. Yeah, Garner, not Gardner. Earl Stanley Garner, the guy who created Perry Mason. He cranked those things out, at the speed of sound, if not the speed of light. And he would outline his books. And if I recall correctly, he would have, he would put up pages around the room in which he wrote, in his office. And once the outline was done, he could do that. Then there are other writers who let the thing unfold, undoubtedly has some clear ideas, but maybe fuzzy ideas, maybe blurry ideas that become clear as you get into the writing process. So I'm the second type. For better or worse, I'm the second type. I have, and not just in this book or in the sequel, but short stories I write and so forth. Not so much if I write scholarship. Scholarship, I have a clearer idea of what I want to do, and the privilege is to let the thing unfold, let the characters unfold. I mean, I've had this experience. Excuse me. I've had the experience which I've read about from other writers where the character kind of gets a voice of his or her own, and the writer ends up doing things with characters that I end up doing things with characters that I may not have imagined ahead of time. To see how they unfold. And then there are times, I've had this experience a lot also. I kind of paint myself into a corner and I go, now what the hell's going to happen next? How am I going to get the character out of this corner?
Yeah.
And maybe I get a coffee, maybe I wait till tomorrow, but I've never never failed to get the character out of the corner. It's just the process, the creative process, and it's really fun. The second part, though, like I alluded to before about revision, is really taking this mishmash and making sure it coheres, and secondarily making sure that there's a minimum of copy editing stuff. Commas are where they belong, and verbs are properly conjugated. I mean, when you get published, the publisher assigns an editor, but also then assigns a copywriter, not a copywriter, a reader, copy reader, and then a third person who, once the whole thing is supposedly all done, they'll read the book again for further errors. But yeah, so it's those two stages, and I guess there's a third. You get 3 for the price of 1, and that's really continually being motivated. And
that was going to be my next question, is how do you stay motivated? Because the creativity that comes out for the characters is one thing, but keeping the plot line going, remembering what went where and all that, I just, in my mind, I think that would be a challenge. How do you keep the creative mind running to be able to be out there?
Well, and I mean, the simple answer is you just do. But in these COVID times, I've read in various websites or email lists I'm on, people say this is a great time for writing. I haven't found COVID to be that beneficial for me. I've done writing, but I find the fog of COVID to be something of a distraction. I've still been plugging away. I'm getting onto it about 90 pages into the sequel, so that's not nothing.
No,
but I still need to sit down. I still need to force these days. I need to force myself to sit down and work. And one of the big problems is, I'll tell you, this isn't where I get all my work done, but I love to go to a coffee shop. I mean, there are many Starbucks, for instance, the Midwest and on the East Coast and in the South, that to which I owe a debt of gratitude. I'll go in with a coffee, put on my earbuds or headphones, listen to music, and sit and write for a couple of hours. That I haven't been able to do. There's something about being in among other people, even though I've got the headphones on and I'm not really paying attention, that gives me energy. And I haven't had that opportunity.
I don't know where you're located, but how has COVID been treating with restrictions and everything like that? Like, you can't go out to eat, but how has it been for you being home and being, has your family been able to see each other within the last year? Yeah. Things like that, because this has been a really challenging year for a lot of people. And yeah. You and I have been, like, you do a lot of big things. I don't have no Ph.D. or anything, but like with your master's, with everything you're doing, it's hard to keep yourself going in times when it feels like all you're doing is staying home and find that motivation.
Yeah, well, I am working as a rabbi. I find myself for 2 years in Columbia, Missouri, which is a college town, nice college town, 150 miles either way approximately from Kansas City and St. Louis, and so I'm here in a capacity as an interim rabbi. It's a role very common in the Protestant church, much more common than in the synagogue. They wanted an interim rabbi for a number of reasons, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. What I want to do for a few years before I hang it all up. So my 70% of my relationship with this congregation has been on Zoom. Zoom services, Zoom meetings, Zoom concerts, Zoom classes, meeting a few people in person, but our sanctuary has been just totally empty, or almost empty, almost totally empty. We did the high holy days, the Jewish high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We recorded them in the sanctuary. We recorded them. We didn't even do them live because the techie who was working with us was afraid there'd be a glitch, which there was once. So he was right. and would just bollocks up the service. So we pre-recorded the services, played them on the days, but otherwise the sanctuary's been largely empty. But I haven't been totally isolated. The synagogue is located. It's called Congregation Beth Shalom, by the way. Just give them a pitch. We're located on a huge piece of property, very nice piece of property, which allows, until it got cold, allowed us to meet outdoors, socially distanced, on lounge chairs and stuff like that. So it hasn't been totally isolated, but it's been much more isolated than I would have liked. And
are you having a lot of participation when you're doing the online? When you're doing like a is it called a sermon or
a service that has a sermon?
Service.
They tell me. You realize I just came here in July of 2020, but they tell me attendance is actually better than it had been previously. It's not huge, but it's quite satisfying.
Good.
Do you feel that missing that connection with people really does influence how you, I want to say preach, but how you provide your knowledge to people as a rabbi? They're not in that facility with you and all that, so it's a little bit different. Or do you feel it actually breaks you out of that comfort zone of being in front of people and makes you actually have to work with yourself? And like, it's almost like that you're talking to you almost.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to interrupt you and ask a question. Are we going to the end of the hour? Because there's something about the book I want to talk about, and we've sort of gotten sidetracked with these. I'll answer your question, but I'd like to get back to the book, if that's okay.
We could go back to the book, absolutely, yeah.
Yes, we are going to the end of the hour.
But my experience with Zoom is sort of a mixed bag. But by that I mean it's not terrible. Our Friday night service, for example, we get normally around 20 people show up on the Zoom screen. When we have something special going up, it could be 30 or 40 people. And since at the lower number, we get basically the same people, they've established a rapport with among them. Well, they know each other pretty much. And then with me and my wife, Betsy, will frequently come. She usually comes. And we schmooze. We schmooze, pretty much the same way we would as if we were in person in the sanctuary before the service began. And that's pretty interesting. The high holidays, as I mentioned, we not only, we didn't even live stream, as I said, we recorded. And I found that I had kind of a reserve in me from previous high holy day experiences where I could project no worse than normal. I mean, I just kept thinking I was talking to a room full of 150 people, and that gave me enough energy. I don't think it flagged. And in fact, I don't know if other colleagues of mine are having the same wondering the same way. But since I've only met this congregation under these bizarre circumstances, I'm not sure what it's going to be like when we're back in person. A voice inside of me says, well, it might be worse. It probably won't be, but it might be. I just don't know. But so it's like I've been a mixed bag. There is this impersonality, and there's freezing and people coming and going, and infrequently the whole thing shuts down. That only happened a couple of times, but for the most part, teaching and preaching and so forth works okay. But just like now, I don't feel I'm addressing you guys with any less seriousness or energy than if we were in a room together.
No, but there is a certain atmosphere that's created when you have a crowd with you, and you can feel their passion. You can physically feel them getting into what you're saying.
No doubt.
So about the book, I have to be honest. I'm curious because of the fact that I've clicked on your blog. I'm looking through some things. Having it be a mystery while having the philosophy degree in Judaism, and if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. But having your Ph.D. and all that, have you noticed that your writing maybe goes across each other? And like how the book writes, like do you have your religious parts come into the writing?
Yeah. So when you study fiction in MFA school, you learn that fiction is fiction. Now there's a broad way of course, writing fiction, but one thing that modern fiction doesn't like are long excurses of a philosophical nature. So, for example, in the beginning of the book, in going back a ways, I had the two main characters, Nick and his disembodied AI Maggie, having these long conversations about good and evil and so forth. And I learned that at least in modern fiction, you can't get away with that. Dostoevsky could get away with it, and there's an Israeli mystery writer who quite quite unexpectedly, I can't remember her name, Batya Gur. She's still considered one of Israel's best. She's been dead for a while, but she's still considered one of Israel's best mystery writers. She would have these long discussions about. She set one novel in a university, so there'd be long discussions about the nature of the university. She set one in a kibbutz. There'd be long discussions about a kibbutz. But usually you can have those kinds of discussions, but you gotta pare them down, unless you become really famous. And then of course when you become famous, which I'm looking forward to, but I'm doubtful. Then if you're famous, you can do whatever the hell you want when you want. But otherwise, you can bring in thematic elements, but you want the reader to think about them, but you can't have two chapters on the nature of good and evil, like that. It's got to be factored into the fabric of the story. So the second character in the book is named Maggie, and readers tell me that she is actually their favorite part of the book. She's disembodied, so she doesn't have a body, but you meet her when going back to the beginning of our conversation when the old man that Nick meets in the park. They're in the apartment, and Maggie says to Nick, "Can I tell him about my change of life?" And Nick breathes and says, "Oh, all right." Well, when she came to him, the character was male, at least a male voice, but she decided that she was a female. She was a female embedded in male algorithms, and gives herself a sex change operation one night and becomes a woman. And so she is. She's a female character who thinks if she was embodied, she would look like Marlene Dietrich. So Marlene Dietrich, various photos of Marlene Dietrich fill the screen that she's embedded in throughout the novel, and actual photographs of Marlene Dietrich that I found on the internet. So I described them. But she's both. She's kind of like Data from the Next Generation in that she's full of facts and she can be very logical, but she's also argumentative. And among other things, gets into discussions with the character Nick. Again, not too long, because that's what I was taught about the nature of religion. And then she'll ask Nick a question, and I pepper this throughout the book. One she says to him, "Nick, tell me about the Golem of Prague." And it tells you about the Golem of Prague, who was this character, robot-like character, invented in medieval Prague to save the Jewish community from anti-Semites, and then overstayed his welcome and had to be turned off. It's possible, by the way, that the Frankenstein monster was based on this legend. And Maggie says, "Well, I'm the Golem of Brooklyn." It's sort of interesting. So intended to be sort of both sad and humorous. And then later she asks Nick to tell him about sex. And Nick realizes she knows everything about sex, because she knows everything. What do you really want to know? and she says, "I want you to tell me about, your personal sexual experiences." And he thinks to himself, and he goes, "I'm not going to do that." So one of the issues with Maggie is she argues vociferously throughout the book that she has crossed over from being an AI to being a human being, even though she doesn't have a body. And what happens throughout the course of the book is that the character Nick comes to agree with that. And so this moment where she asks him about sex and wants him to tell, all the personal salacious experiences he had, and he says, he says, I didn't have all that many to begin with. He won't tell it to her. He won't tell it to her, and she goes, "Aha! I know the reason you won't tell me. It's because I'm human, and this is something you wouldn't share with a human being. You would share it with a computer, but." So this is on again and off again, and in the end, Maggie actually, who has an ongoing interest in religion, and argues continually throughout the book about the meaning of religion to Nick, who is a very skeptical person, even though he grew up as an Orthodox Jew. She secretly converts to Judaism, and as the book ends, she's planning to have her bat mitzvah, which is both serious but also a joke. So that's just really touching on her a little bit. She's a real live wire, and that's how I made her. That's how I made her to be, and she covers a lot of bases.
No, I like that. Do you then study a lot of the philosophy and the studies about what is it? I want to say the acronym is GRAIN. Yeah, so you're familiar with that, GRAIN.
No, I don't. If you tell me what it is.
I think it's just so N is nanobots, there's AI, and then it's genetics. I can't remember what the R stands for, but then AI and nanobots, and it's basically about how the next steps in human evolution, robotics, genetics, robotics, AI, and then nanobots. The next step in human and technological evolution. Because you're talking about having this computer, almost a cyborg, because she ends up becoming human in a sense throughout the book.
Yeah, I did. I did, and I do a little bit of reading in that field. And in fact, I'm preparing to take myself on a national lecture tour virtually. And one of the topics that I'm going to be offering my potential audience is something about AI and religion. So I need to do more work in that. I'm not a scientist. I did a little bit of scientific work, and in creating the character, and in particular, one element of it, of the creation. I consulted with a friend of mine who's an AI, who's a high tech guy, but this, this anybody who knows the field really will know that the stuff I do is pretty phony in terms of science, but in terms of fiction, it has a real set of purposes.
Yeah, it's leaning more towards, like you said, the monster of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster.
Well, not my character so much. She's not a monster, and she's pretty much under control, but she's not.
Well, no, I don't mean a monster as in like going around terrorizing, but in the sense of a man-made, trying to figure out where they are placed in life, trying to understand their existence.
Right, and of course, the echo of that is for the reader to think about not only, where we're moving technologically in society, but about ourselves. What are the characteristics that define our humanness? One argument they have in the book is Nick is denying that this character is human. This AI is human, and he says, something to the effect: a person lying in an irreversible coma, of which there are many in this society, that person really human, even though that person may never walk, think, or speak again. And you who think clearly and intelligently and creatively, I can't grant you your humanity. And so there's something for us to think about. What makes, what makes us human? What makes us transcend our mere body? And that question is going to be writ even larger in the sequel.
I think that. Do you have a timeline of what when? I know you said you don't have a date yet, but do you have a goal in mind of when you'd like to have the next book out, the sequel?
Well, finished. If the good Lord is with me, maybe the end of the calendar year, if I'm lucky. But then there are all the other steps that go along with it. And meanwhile, I'm working like a dog to market the thing.
I'm sure.
Because you know, one of the things they don't tell you in MFA school is that books don't sell themselves. And even if I'm in a weekly marketing group, a group of people I got hooked up with kind of accidentally, but we meet every Thursday and we become pretty friendly. One's in Portland, Oregon, one's in England, one's in New Mexico, and I'm here in Missouri, and we meet on Zoom. And one of the members of the group is a quite successful children's author, and she's published by a major publisher. Even she does her own marketing. All the more so, people who are published by press that help very much in marketing. So along the way, and in fact, one of the things that's impeded my work on the next book is I've learned the process of how to try and sell Nick Bones, the current Nick Bones.
I love it. I'm intrigued. I've shared your link. I'm sharing your website again right here for everybody. Do me a favor. Tell everybody we have 5 minutes left, and we usually do an inspirational thing right before the end to give everybody a something to go with to keep themselves going in a strong way, to keep themselves in a positive mindset throughout the day. Phil, I've already got your book in the background. I've got the download. I've signed up. So please, everybody, go do that. Go sign up. Gavin, click the link, sign up, download the book. I want to give you the platform right here. Tell us a little bit more about the book and why everybody needs to go buy it on Amazon today.
Well, I'm going to be a rabbi, if you don't mind, instead. You said you end with some kind of inspirational thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a very famous rabbinic story embedded in a body of literature called Midrash. I don't know how many of your listeners are Jewish. Many of them will know the term. But this is a story that not only me, but many rabbis use this as a bit of inspiration. So the scene is the Red Sea. The Israelites have their back to the sea, and the Egyptians are coming. They've got horses, they've got chariots, they've got cannons, they've got helicopters and planes. The Israelites are doomed. Their backs to the sea, and they're about to be either recaptured or murdered. And Moses, much like the image of an old-time Protestant preacher, is just standing there saying, "Hold on, everybody! God's going to take care of us. Don't worry, don't worry." But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And God says, you got to do something. Actually, that's actually from the book of Exodus. So there's this guy who doesn't have much mention in the Bible at all, named Nachshon ben Aminadab, Nachshon the son of Aminadab. And he's pictured in this story. It's not in the Bible. It's in this rabbinic literature, Midrash. He goes down to the sea and tentatively dips his toe into the sea, and nothing happens. So he dips his whole foot into the sea, and then both feet. And soon he's up to his knees. He's up to his thighs, his hips, his belly, his chest. He's walking into the sea, and you can see him going, "God, maybe it's about time for you to do something." And the picture is he goes to his neck, and he's just the sea is just up to his nose, and Nachshon's getting, maybe this wasn't such a good idea, and the sea splits. And the rest of the story, the Israelites cross over, the Egyptians are drowned in the sea. And the idea of the story, which is the inspirational component of the story, is the world, and if you're a religious person, you might throw God into the mix. The world will do things. They'll do things for you, but you got to damn well take the first step. You got to take the risk of, in this case, going into the sea and risk drowning, and then the world, in this case, God will help you. But it's a partnership. It's a partnership between the self and God, the self and others, and you just can't sit around and wait for things to happen. I can't sit around and wait for Nick Bowen's Underground to sell itself, although I wish to hell it would, because it's a lot of work selling books. But my guru tells me that there's specific things that I got to do, that I can do, to sell Nick and Maggie and this dystopic world in the Velvet Underground, and sort of interesting ending, and the weird little religious sect that occupies a part of the world. But I got to take the first step. I got to go on podcasts and do my best to be coherent, articulate, as I said. So
I love that.
I was going to say you did great. I actually am excited to read your book. I've gotten more into reading lately, and I have to be honest, I've not read a mystery book in a while. So for me, this is going to be a different experience, but I'm excited because I got to meet the author. I know that if I'm the guy who calls you the wrong name again, you're going to make a character about me. So I'm really excited about that. But at the end of the day, I like how you put that. It's going out. You have to be willing to go out and do the work, just like you said. And it's going to feel like you're drowning at times. It's going to feel really deep, but when it parts, it's going to be there. You got to connect with your God. And I think that was a great way of saying that. So, Phil, this has been a great interview. Everybody do yourself a favor. Go check out, I'm going to say the name wrong just so I can get in his book, Phil Cohen's book on Amazon, Amazon, and you're on YouTube, I believe, correct?
I mean, there's an interview, but I don't think there's a link to that yet in my website.
I didn't see one. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, so that way I could post it.
Well, I don't have a YouTube channel, but that's a great idea. But it's just another bit of work I got to. And I got to say, this was really wonderful. You guys are really good interviewers. You strike a nice informal atmosphere, and it was easy for me to chatter away over this last hour. So thank you back. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
thank you.
We like to make a nice, comfortable, relaxed environment while still doing our best to keep on topic. We got a joke here, a squirrel, where sometimes something will catch our mind and we go completely in left field. But for the most part, we really enjoy staying on topic and taking things seriously.
Okay,
well, that's why Gavin's here, because I'm the one with the squirrel ADD. I just all of a sudden will be like, oh, you're a rabbi and you write books. Let's talk about how the two combine.
Yeah.
So
it was a great time having you on the show here.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. This was a terrific hour. So thank you very much. Be well.
You too. Thank you, Phil. And ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of Java Delight. Thank you guys for joining us. Spread love, positivity. Get out there. Hold doors for people without wanting anything back. Just be a good human. Spread that joy. Spread that positivity. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm Brandon Croucher, Gavin Kerr, Phil Cohen. Did I say it right that last time?
Got it right.
I did. Finally, 1 out of 3. Guys, have a great one, and thank you for tuning in. Make sure to share. See ya.
Bye-bye.